welcome to the Titletown Huddle on the GruelingTruth.net.
Welcome to the Titletown Huddle at theGroomingTruth.net, where the legends speak. My name is Joe Pritchard, and with me, as always, is Aaron Zepnick. Aaron, you actually attended the game between the Bears and the Packers this past week. Sounds like you got a few things to say about that.
I do, actually. I sat right next to a Bear fan, and he walks in and he says, word for word, sorry to ruin your night. I'm a Bear fan, but he said, at least I'm a realistic Bear fan, and I know we still suck. So,
okay,
great icebreaker. I thought, okay, I can't give this guy too much crap. He's realistic. He understands. And I just wanted to preface the game with, my father-in-law and I are, we got a brat and an adult beverage before the game, and we're walking around, the upper concourse by our seats, and I can't tell you, Joe, how many wheelchairs and walkers and crutches, and it was amazing. I bet you we've seen 18 people that were, handicapped where they couldn't walk, or, they're in wheelchairs or the motorized cart, or it was amazing. I said, are these all Packers that are up here that are on, the MASH unit? And my father-in-law and I shared a laugh over that. And he even said, too, he was just amazed at how many people were injured or, incapacitated. And it kind of reminded us of all the injuries the Packers had going on. So it was really weird. So anyway, that was my pregame entertainment was, we were making jokes about how the Packers were so banged up, and we thought they were all in the stands because there were so many people. So that's my funny story.
All right, well, the Bears and Packers will bring out all the hardcores from both sides. So sitting next to a Bear fan for the whole game, I guess we were sitting next to a couple Giants fans, so that wasn't too bad a couple weeks ago. But he seemed, I'm going to guess your Bear fan friend, as we could call him here, probably didn't enjoy himself too much from what I'm hearing.
He started out enjoying himself, and when they scored the defensive touchdown, I tell you, he was the loudest guy in the section. But quickly realized that that kind of woke up the offense and Aaron Rodgers, and I feel very good about a lot of things after watching that game live and seeing the things that they were trying to exploit, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that short passing game, a lot more motion, a lot more empty 5 receiver sets. I think we talked about this weeks ago with Cobb and Montgomery both on the field, and the packages were a lot shortened because of the running back situation. I didn't see a lot of Richard Rodgers. I didn't see a lot of Perillo, which I was okay with, because I think getting your playmakers on the field is important, and I think they've found a way to get every single one of them involved. Jordy didn't have a huge impact on the game. He did draw the pass interference on the underthrown ball by Rodgers, which actually, if Rodgers leads him on that ball and throws an Aaron Rodgers ball, that's a touchdown. He had the guy beat by 4 yards in front of us. I mean, it was amazing how much separation Jordy had. But one thing I'm gonna tell other people that might not be Packer fans that are listening to the show, which I hope we do have some other teams, fans listening. But one thing I can say is look out for the Packers offense. Now that they've learned how to use their weapons, they learned how to kind of change it up and get back to what is, the short passing game of the West Coast offense. And if this defense can continue to grow and these young corners get playing time, I'm excited I think we will be 11-5, 12-4 or better. And Minnesota's offense got exploited a little bit too against Philadelphia. So relax, Packer fans. We're still in a good spot. We hold our own destiny for the division, and there's some good things to come for this season.
Very apt message here. I'm actually wearing my RELAX T-shirt today, so I think we can both be relaxing about the Packers. Although that first half wasn't a very relaxing first half, the Packers did seem to dominate the game, but just weren't putting up a whole bunch of points. And you could just feel it that one bad play the other way could swing the momentum. Well, it did, but after the Bears went ahead on the defensive touchdown, the momentum went entirely the other way. It was almost like the offense came together and just said, forget this. We're done not scoring. Let's start scoring now with these nice drives we're having, with all these numbers we're racking up against the Bears, because there was a couple receivers that went off. Devontae Adams went off. Tom Montgomery out of the backfield also went off. It was really great to see that the ball was getting into the hands of a couple guys that we've been hoping would get the ball a little bit more.
Absolutely. Randall Cobb, Devontae, and Ty Montgomery all were in double digits for catches. The one thing that scares me is Jared Abbrederis went to injured reserve this week. And
as did Eddie Lacy at this point too.
Which we kind of expected, but the one thing that scares me is if you're going to spread them out and run this, 4 or 5 wide sets, you have to have the tools in place to do so. And if Ty or Randall will go down now, or even Jordy or Devontae, knocking on wood here as we speak, Joe, and I hope those 4 guys and Trevor Davis can stay healthy, because I think once they get that kid, involved, you're looking at some more speed and some more weapons that they can get the ball in their hands and make good things happen.
Right, and another move that kind of went under the radar too was the Packers putting Geronimo Allison up from the practice squad to the active roster. He would be the fill-in if somebody went down and Trevor Davis started getting into the offense a bit more. Allison would be the backup at that point. And from the sounds of it, he had a fantastic preseason, and the team seems pretty high on him. So it would be kind of nice to see if they try to get him into the mix at some point here too, and see what he can do. Because if you have a whole bunch of people that other teams are afraid of, who are they going to double team?
Absolutely, and we forget about Jeff Janis, who had a couple of big games at the end of last year. In the playoff game, he had a pretty good game. He's capable. It's just, when you're not getting any first-team reps, and it's tough to crack into that consistent continuity mode with Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure. Geronimo Allison, I did like him a lot in the preseason. I saw him, up close and personal in the Raiders game that I went to in the preseason, also in family night, and he looked very smooth. I'm not so sure he'll be more than just a special teamer for the most part, and I'm fine with that, because that means that the big 4 or big 5 are out there. So
yeah, it does feel a little bit better knowing that there's more where that came from as far as depth goes, though. Nice that they had somebody in the practice squad that would fit in so neatly if more happened. Now, we are seeing a lot of injuries at the running back position. Don Jackson, though, looks like he may have a chance to play this Sunday. Did not break his hand, as was the previous thought here. And now Davis is going to get a full 10 days to learn some of the offense here. So it'll be nice to have another couple of potential weapons out of the backfield as well, to keep mixing and matching and trying to find personnel or matchups to exploit.
Absolutely, and you can't just scrap the I formation with Ripkowski and either Niall Davis or Don Jackson behind him. One thing I'm gonna be cautious about, and I'm optimistic, but Niall Davis was 4th on the depth chart with Kansas City for a reason. I'm not expecting a whole lot from him, to be quite honest, other than a kick returner. And Don Jackson, I don't know. I don't know that he possesses any game-changing ability. I think he's kind of just a spell kind of guy. wasn't real impressed with either one on Thursday, obviously, against the Bears. But the Bears, believe it or not, the Bears' defense is not as bad. We found a couple of matchups. I know Glenn, number 39, Devontae Adams completely undressed him a few times. One time real bad on a comeback route. I think if they don't find those matchups and the Bears are without Fuller, they have a corner out as well. I mean, it seems like this year a lot of teams have some corners hurt. Detroit, Indianapolis, Chicago, us. Dallas has a guy hurt now. So, I mean, receivers' numbers are going to keep going up with these corners being injured. And Josh Norman's hurt now. I'm not sure what his status is, but there's a lot of corners in the league hurt. And I don't know if it's just because of the lack of contact in practice compared to the older days. I'm not sure if it's field conditions. I'm not sure, but it just seems like a lot more skill guys get hurt than what you used to hear.
Yeah, the other thing, too, though, is that there seems to be, and there has been talk of this ever since I started following football intently, but there's always the talk about how there's not enough quality quarterbacks in the league either to take advantage of these. We are still seeing some teams just struggle to find anybody. Cleveland, of course, is the very, very clear example of this, but there are still other teams that are struggling at the quarterback position. So those teams are going to be left in the dust once again and not be able to exploit some of this. But you're going to, like you're saying, we're going to see some of those players that put up a ton of numbers like Matthew Stafford, as far as numbers go anyway, just to continue to have huge number games. Whether or not they're winning games, that's another thing altogether. But those guys that love to put the numbers together are going to be able to continue to do so, I believe.
Yeah, I do as well. And, there's not too many dominating defenses in the NFC. I mean, I think Arizona and Seattle both have very good defenses. Minnesota's probably the best one. Philadelphia's got a good front four. They're a pretty good defense. But, I mean, Dallas, I think, is playing pretty good on defense, but I don't think that their defense is a top 5 defense in the NFC. The ones that I mentioned and the Packers, if healthy, I think the Packers have a top 5 in the NFC defense. And, I may be forgetting one or two, but, I mean, let's face it, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Atlanta's defense don't really scare me from the NFC South. And then you have the NFC East, who is I really am not impressed with any of their defenses, honestly, other than Philadelphia. And then, in the NFC North, you have the Vikings and the Packers. Detroit's defense and Chicago's defense are both ugly. Although I will say that I think Detroit's defense plays a little bit more energetic and high-paced at home. And then the NFC West, the Rams' defense is okay, but losing Janoris Jenkins, I think, really hurt them. I think they're banged up, too. The 49ers, obviously, we know what we got with them. I think their defense is better than what they get credit for, but their offense isn't putting up points, so it doesn't really matter if you're not winning games.
Yeah, that is for sure. The NFC still feels rather wide open to me. It doesn't seem like there's any, besides how the Vikings have come out this season, there really just doesn't feel like there's any team that's ready to run away with things. And we saw Minnesota come back down to earth this week, thankfully. We've seen Seattle's offense struggle all season long. Arizona has had a slog all season long as well. That Sunday night game, I'm very, very glad that was otherwise occupied, because that would have put me to sleep well before the exciting conclusion, if you can call it that.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, I stayed up and watched that and feel like I wasted 4 hours of my life. I disagree with ties. I wish they would play another quarter, and whoever's ahead at whoever wins after the 5th quarter, you end it in a game scenario, and if you don't end it after 5 quarters, go a 6th quarter. And these guys get paid to play the game, not a game and then a brief overtime or one possession apiece basically, and then it's over. It was a long couple of drives, and I just disagree with the tie. And why even have overtime? Why not just end it in a tie and let everyone go home, at the end of regulation?
There is, and we're going to go into slight digression here because I want to talk about this as well. As the new system, new as in the last few years anyway, where they have both teams guaranteed a possession, is starting to lead to more ties because you'll have a team go kick a field goal, which would have ended the game in the past, and then the next team will take another long drive, kick a field goal, and then there's not a whole lot of time left for either side to respond, and they'll play tentatively because it's sudden death all of a sudden. We even saw that in 2013 between the Vikings and the Packers. Both teams had one possession until the 2-minute warning of the overtime, which didn't give a lot of time for a Matt Flynn-led Packer team to try to respond and have the go-ahead score. So I almost wonder if this change that they've made is going to cause even more ties in the future.
Well, and like we talked about this last night on the Pick'em show and on the Fantasy show, and my theory is, college, you have the rules where after 2 overtimes you have to go for 2. If you just keep playing the game, eventually you're going to find out whose defense is better or whose offense is better, and somebody's going to win the game. Otherwise, go back to the sudden death. I'm fine with sudden death. Somebody's going to score eventually. You just play until sudden death. Not one overtime period. You just play until somebody scores. When somebody scores, the game's over with. So look at hockey. I mean, there's a shootout after overtime period. I mean, maybe you do a one-on-one period for a shootout where you have a receiver go against the corner. It has to be, a quarterback, receiver in a corner, and if you score, you score. You go from the 25 or 30-yard line, and you get to go one play, and if you go up and get it or you don't, I don't know. I think that's obviously hideous, but I'd rather watch that. It'd be a little bit more entertaining seeing a mano, one-on-one, maybe even from the 10-yard line, and end the game that way instead of a tie. I'd rather see something that's entertaining and beneficial to the fan.
Sure. So anything but a tie, in your opinion. Now, would you be in favor of going to the college method, even maybe taking the ball starting at, say, midfield instead of its field goal range already, and seeing how that turned out?
Absolutely not. I disagree with the college rules. I do not like that. If you're going to do it from like your own 30 and make them drive a whole drive. You know what I mean? So like if you don't score, your drive's over. There's no punts, and if you turn the ball over, then they get the ball at their own 30 and they try to drive on you, and you do that until somebody scores. And but then you get into the games that are higher scoring as well, and you're going to get into, points differential and stuff for tiebreakers for playoffs is going to be skewed. I disagree with that too. I say either go to sudden death or just play a period until the game ends, until somebody scores. So sudden death either way.
Well, a couple different overtime solutions proposed that will eliminate the tie. If anybody's got an opinion on this, we'd love to hear from you at our Titletown Huddle Facebook page. Let us know how you'd prefer to see NFL settled games in overtime, even if you feel that there should be a difference between the regular season and the playoffs. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about next week's game against the Atlanta Falcons.
Get in the Titletown Huddle with Joe Pritchard and Aaron Zepnick on thegruelingtruth.net.
Thank you for listening to the Titletown Huddle at thegruelingtruth.net. We are back. Aaron, we ended the first half of the show with a lively discussion about tie games. So let's go ahead and move forward now to Atlanta. Now, a lot of people are going to have pocket schedules or the magnet schedules this week that say this game is at noon. Well, if you haven't heard otherwise, this game has actually been moved to the late time slot, I believe 3:25 for TV. Just wanted to make sure that our listeners were at least aware of that so they can catch the Packers at the correct time. Now, Aaron, what are we looking at when we're talking about the Falcons here?
Well, they got a high-powered offense. They're at home in their building. Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman is questionable actually right now, but I think he'll play. And Tevin Coleman, they got a good 1-2 punch at the running back. We would probably kill to have one of those guys right now in green and gold, but they have some sneaky weapons as well. They got the Mohamed Sanu that came over from Cincinnati. They got Jacob Tamme, who's playing pretty decent at tight end, and their defense is very aggressive. I look for the Packers to stop the run. They'll focus on stopping the run, and I think they'll roll coverage to Julio Jones and let somebody else beat you. And I think that if they do that, they'd be successful this week. And part of me thinks, well, they'll let Julio kind of just do what Julio does, like they did a couple of years ago here. We ended up winning the game anyway. But I think you got to stop the run. If you stop the run and make them one-dimensional, get some pressure on the quarterback, whether you got to blitz or bring 4 and get some pressure that way. If we can get pressure with 4, their offensive line's pretty stout, so it's going to be a tall task. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
I would imagine so, especially if the Packers offense can keep the second half roll they got on against the Bears going. Their defense doesn't really stick out to me as one to be too afraid of. They are doing pretty well this season, though, so you definitely have to pay attention to that in their own building. I think this will be a high-scoring game, like you were saying. Honestly, my heart is telling me the Packers are going to pull this one off here, but if I were a betting man, which I am not, thankfully, I think I would put the Falcons on top by a few points this week. Do you share any of my maybe potential pessimism here, or do you think the Packers can come away with one here?
Well, I picked the Packers on the Pick'em show, and I was the only guy to do that. And I know it's a homer pick, but I feel like when you have Aaron Rodgers and an offensive line that's playing pretty well, and you have the weapons that you have, and then the Packers kind of figuring out in the second half, I think they found their identity for what the hand they're dealt with injuries, and I think they're going to keep using the weapons that they have in them ways. And some of these short passes are just as effective as a run. And if we can do that with some success, throw some different wrinkles in, they did last week, like we've been asking all year for. And I think that if we can do that and we don't turn the ball over, when you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a shot. And I'm going to say 38-33 Packers.
I was thinking in the same ballpark here as far as score goes. I'm just worried that the Packers' injuries on the defensive side, especially in the corner position, is going to be a little bit too much this week on the road. I'm going to say 34-31 Falcons. Come down to a late drive by the Falcons here that'll be make or break for them, and I just have a hard time with Randall out, with Shields out long term, of course, and Rollins potentially out of the picture as well. I just have a hard time saying that they'll be able to stop Atlanta when they're playing well.
I look back, and this is why I feel confident, or why I have some confidence in the Packers. Their defense has historically been banged up. I mean, we had Charles Woodson that was hurt. We had, Shields. This isn't the first time he's been hurt. We had Tramon Williams that was banged up. We've played Calvin Johnson. We've played some of these high quality, top-notch receivers. we had the same secondary basically with Odell Beckham a couple games ago, and I expected him to go off, and he didn't. Granted, Dallas didn't have Des Bryant. They could run the ball effectively, but they didn't really go off on our secondary either. The key is getting off the field on third down, getting some pressure on the quarterback. If we get some pressure on the quarterback and we can move Matt Ryan off of his spot, they talk about getting some pressure up the middle, move him off of his spot. He is not that accurate of a quarterback when he's on the run. If we can make him have to be mobile and get him out of the pocket, I like the Packers' chances. And look, the best secondary helper is a good pass rush. The way the offensive line for the Packers has been playing, Rodgers can, scan the field, sit in the pocket comfortably most of the time, and get the ball, delivered on time. I really don't think that they're going to be as stout passing the ball as what everyone thinks. I really don't.
All right, well, we will definitely see here now. My mind flashes back to the 2010 Super Bowl season where the Packers had this scenario come up where they were on the road against the Falcons in a nationally televised game in the regular season and did not come out on top. It was a close one here. But then they got another shot at them in the playoffs, and they left them in their dust. I feel like the Packers aren't quite firing on all cylinders yet, but they're going to make a game of this. And if we get them again, I'd feel a whole lot more confident about the situation. But at this moment, I'm thinking that we'll be disappointed come Sunday night here. But I really do hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong twice this year on predictions here. I hope I'm wrong a third time.
Well, and again, maybe it's just I'm optimistic, and maybe it's false hope, but we'll see. That's why they play the games. I mean, if everyone that was favored was supposed to, win the game, actually won the game, we would never have upsets. So I'm picking the Packers this week in an upset.
All right. Well, do we have any final thoughts this week here, or are we going to be getting ourselves ready for an exciting Sunday afternoon?
I did. I wanted to talk a little bit about Minnesota's upcoming schedule because they're the team that's in front of us. So they have the Bears this week, which we just played the Bears. We know Minnesota should beat the Bears. After that, they play Detroit, who's playing pretty good offensively. Then they have the Redskins at Washington. Then Arizona, the Lions again, then the Cowboys. There are 3 to 4 losable games in their next 5 games, in my opinion. So if anyone out there thinks that the Vikings are walking away from the Packers, I have tickets for the Minnesota game here, and I am very, very optimistic that will be for the division.
Yeah, I would think so. The Minnesota's starting to hit the heart of their schedule here. Now, I just want to relay a story that happened to me just a bit earlier today, checking my email, and I saw that Ticketmaster likes to send me various events. They decided to send me an email about the Bears-Vikings game, and I just went, "You don't really know me at all, do you?"
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to touch on that, schedule just because I think people are starting to get nervous, and I think we're still in a very good spot.
I'm a lot less nervous about that situation than I was just a week ago. So here's hoping by the time that we're talking about the Vikings and Packers playing again, that we're talking about the Vikings being too far behind for it to matter. So with that, though, we'll go ahead and sign off tonight here at the Titletown Huddle at thegruelingtruth.net, where the legends speak.
Thank you for listening to the Titletown Huddle on thegruelingtruth.net.